Welcome back. And in this session, we'll be learning about JavaScript data types and variables. One of the most fundamental characteristics of any programming language that you take is a set of data types it supports. It's very important that we understand the type of values that can be represented or passed around, or in other words, manipulated in a programming language. In JavaScript, we have two types of data types. One's primitive, it's numbers, strings, and boolean, and any number ranging from single digits to any length is numbers. It can also mean that there are floating point numbers like 250.50, and then there are strings, which are usually or always in double quotes, is a string, and then there is a boolean, which is either a 0 or 1, or either true or false. Then there are also defines two trivial data types. One is null and undefined, each of which defines only a single value. For example, you call upon a function that does not exist, you get a undefined, and if there is no data, you get a null. And similarly, JavaScript supports a composite data type known as an object. We'll be going over them in detail as we go in the course, but for now, this is what we need to understand. There's also a basic syntax that JavaScript covers. It doesn't matter whether you write JavaScript on a separate file and link it in your HTML, or you simply open a script tag and do something like this that we've got here. And usually there are semicolons when you write or declare certain variables or multiple variables in a single line. Otherwise, semicolons are optional. That means that this reason JavaScript uses semicolon is to indicate end of a line, but otherwise a return key right after your line in your code is considered as end of line, and hence semicolons are optional. And though there's also a developer console, very unique to JavaScript, where all of the errors are logged. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Let's say we go to a browser, let's say Chrome, and then I'm gonna open google.com, and in that I will right click, go to inspect, and then it opens up a console which sort of gives you all the HTML and everything that there is on this Google page. If you look at something, there is something called as a console. It's nothing but a way to print certain errors or debugs or anything onto the console. Let's see this example. So I'm going to use something called as jsbin.com. It's a live online editor. And then in here, I have typed something called console.log, which is a function to log something or print something onto the console. And when I do this and click on run, it prints hello world. So that's what the console does. It does the same thing here as well. If I just copy this and then run the same here, it would do the same thing. So if I run it on the browser. So let's go back to what we were learning about, the syntax, and so the console is clear. We'll be using the console a lot, so don't worry about it. We'll look into this more in detail. Now, this session is also about learning variables. Variables are containers which carry some sort of a value. What is a container? A container is a space in the memory that stores some sort of data. So as simple as that. So you need to remember that a variable is declared and assigned with a value. So it saves some information of yours to be manipulated or altered or done some operation with on your code in a memory. And there are also another way called let is also used in space of var. We're using var in this course, but we'll also be doing some examples where we use let. So just to summarize again, we use var. It's a container that keeps some variable name convention and then saves some value. Let's see live some of these examples. I'm going to go back to JSBin and let me declare some variables. So variable A, or it could be anything, variable A or variable B. You can give it any name that you like. And then there is, let's say, this is called declaring variables, but notice that the variables do not carry any value. So if I have to give it a value to a variable, then I have to say a variable is like this. Our variable c is equal to 3, variable d is equal to 4. Now variable carries some sort of a value. Now let's say what happens if I create something like a name. This is a number, and if I create a string like this is a string variable carrying called name and carrying a value called Mike. If I have to console log it, it's a method to print something out. So if I have to say what's the value of a, let's say the value of a is, and then I concatenate it like this, and then if I click on run, so let me clear it, and then click on run, it says the value of a is undefined because there is nothing. So note that undefined is also a data type. So the object does not have any value, is called undefined. Let's see what happens if I'm just going to copy paste this, and then let's see what happens if I do C here, and then a name here. Okay, let's see what this does. Notice that it's printing the value of C. It's printing the value of the variable name. So I'm going to take this off so it's much more clear. And we can also perform certain operations on this. We'll look at arithmetic operations more in detail. But for now, just a glimpse to get us an idea and get us going. So I could do, I'm taking the variable a, and I'm assigning the value and multiplying it by d. And then let's see what happens if I say, print this. Let's see what this does. See, the value of a has now become 12. So that's 3 times 4 is 12, and that's the value of a. If I also go on to, let's say, I'm going to say something more interesting. I'm going to take name. Let's see what happens if I combine two different data types. What will be the outcome? So if I take Mike is a string, so if I add a string with a integer data or a number data type, let's see what happens. It simply does not understand. It treats the number 3 as if it's a string, and then it concatenates it. It's not really doing an addition. And then there is, let's say I create another variable and I set it to true, and if I have to, this is a boolean that returns either true or false. How do I know what variable is of what data type? To do that, there is something called as a type of. It's a function of JavaScript. It's a built-in method, rather, of JavaScript which determines what data type a variable is. Let's see this in action. So I'm going to print this type of name, and let's see what is C is. Let's see what is field. Maybe we can throw in another. Let's see what is A. Okay. And if I run it, it says the type of data type of name is string because it is a string, and the data type of C is a number, and data type of field is boolean, and so on. So I hope you got some basic idea of what this is and what variables are, what is a console, and how JavaScript syntax is. All right, see you in the next session. Thank you.